Bogack.
Are we following in order the public hearings? Are we going to go one by one?
Yeah, well, let's, any questions for Mr. Priscilla in terms of,
I can handle on the third public hearing if we're going to do it that way.
Well, what do you mean the third public hearing?
Did you have, are there 3 public hearings here?
No,
A,
those
B,
are
and
just-
C?
Well, they're all together. Lead
Oh.
agency designate the board as the lead agency for the change of zone,
Okay.
the proposed negative declaration for secret, and then the proposed plan.
So then we're ready for public.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll do all 3 of them at the same time, sure.
Okay, at this point?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
John Bogack, 8 Knoxon Street. Well, I'd like to take this one by one, starting with the designation by the Board of Trustees of the lead agency. Maybe you could just clarify what responsibilities the board takes on when it assumes that responsibility, what are you supposed to do when it takes that designation for itself?
Well, chapter 617 of the NYCRR is about this thick. It covers, what the responsibilities are environmentally. DC even produces they call their secret cookbook on what the responsibilities are. But generally, it is to review what the exact segmented responsibility is before you today. It's not the site plan, it's only the change of zone.
Right.
So that's critical for the analysis of what's going on here. This is already a developed site with zoning designations, so it's very, very narrow to change from one zoning designation to another. And what the board does is it analyzes the short environmental form, which is called the Appendix B, 617.20,
Right.
filled out by the applicant, and reviews those topics, and the board has them, and they do it.
Okay, fine, that answers my first question. The second question, that's the short environmental form,
Yeah.
correct, right? Which you folks have, and the public doesn't. Because it would be disadvantageous for me to respond, because I've never seen the form.
yeah, take mine, John.
Right. Thanks. Well, of course, the difficulty for me now is I really can't give this a fair assessment and just cut the signal. I wish it had been included in the packet. I think it's been fair for the public to be able to have a chance to review this, which I don't. So I'll go to the third point. I spoke at the planning board in favor of this project. I listened to what was expressed about it. I know about the alternate uses that it might have come to be, which haven't, and this one seems to be a lower impact one. But also, I did express 2 reservations. Now, whether these are relevant to this, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe these are conditions that could be added by the board when it reaches its final approval, we'll see. But my 2 concerns are these. One is the traffic issue. When Mr. Priscilla spoke about this before, I did point out to the board that he has made a representation about the traffic at a very critical part of the village. In fact, even last meeting, there was a person bringing up the issues about the traffic at this particular site. Mr. Priscilla, with good faith, I'm sure, has made a representation about the traffic flow, but again, it's a self-interested representation. There is a need for an independent one about the traffic issues at this site, and one done in the summer if that's possible, and not in the winter. So that'd be my first request. If you go along with this proposal, which I somehow sense that you're probably going to, that condition be ordered as part of your approval, if that's possible. And my second one is what I expressed the last time I was here too, is the destruction of the trees on this property. Now, it's less than 2 acres, it's 1.5 acres, I checked that out on Zillow.com. So we had no Brookhaven laws to protect this. We're back to where we were before, which is the village itself. Maybe the horse is out of the barn on this, maybe it's too far along the line to save the trees that are there. This has come up before, and I think, Lori, really, you're the tree advocate. I think we need a tree law, and this again brings it back to the fore.
Before you were involved with the tree committee, we had, in the early days, we had numerous meetings and we reviewed a lot of the legislation that other communities have to preserve trees. And we really found that in many cases, we felt that they would have unintended consequences. And anecdotal stories that I had heard from people who live in this community, sometimes they were very onerous and burdensome. And maybe it would be more to take things on a case-by-case basis. So that was, in fact, Josephine, you might have even been on those early meetings with
Yes.
Karen Ferb and a number of other people. So we never did adopt any legislation like that. But what I could say on a case-by-case basis, if you bring it up to the planning board, in some cases, we work with developers where they can work around the existing trees, or where they can, within the site plan, plant trees to make up for the loss of trees somewhere else in the site, depending on what can work. When you see it at Copper Beach Village, there's a number of trees that were left. I think Riverwalk did the same thing in certain locations, but sometimes it's just not feasible within the site plan. So those are the discussions that we've had.
Okay, so in this
Yeah.
case,
I think that in this case, you'd have to bring it to planning
planning
board. I
board.
don't know how Ralph feels about his site plan and trees, but I don't know, you can ask Brian, I don't know if this is the venue to discuss that. I
Yeah,
think
both
it's-
of those two topics, I would say, will go to the planning board. Because again, this is, it's almost, it's property specific, and a lot of times zoning gets changed, and I criticize other municipalities that do it, because there's a reason why zoning is changing. There's a reason well, there should be a plan as to why it's going that way. A lot of municipalities do it in a vacuum, with the legal fiction not really knowing what's happening, like why they're doing it. Of course, everyone knows why they're making a change, but a lot of municipalities proceed with a change of zone as the law requires them to. A general change, in accordance with the comprehensive plan or something along those lines. And in this case, the context of the plan, because this is so site-specific, while we're not ruling on the plan tonight, we are ruling on what the change of zone should be.
It would be very disingenuous for us to do this zoning change without having the applicant come in and make a presentation, and to be able to say, yeah, this is being done with this kind of plan in mind. You know, because we could have actually have done this in a box and said, we don't know. No, we could have, but that has never made sense to me. I think it is about the transparency that you're talking about all the time. What is the proposed plan that we're looking for on the property? And where is it going? It's the same thing as, you know, the change from D2 to C residence for the remainder of the block. It's looking at that block saying, and that block right now is primarily multifamilies. So let's make it what it is. And so that the rest of those homes along there can be taken care of, and we can start going after the buildings to upgrade that whole area. Because it is one of those last areas that hasn't been touched.
I understand where you're coming from. Like I said, I testify in front of the planning board, I'm in favor of this proposal in general, but you know, there are unintended consequences, and those are the ones we need to watch out for, because I saw you, Mr. Mayor, only a couple of days ago, trying to negotiate that spot where there was a fire department and a run down River Avenue. I saw you in your car. It was difficult for you. And it's difficult for people lots of times. So it's a fact that needs to really be given a lot of care. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments. Any other comments for the board? Jackie, you live there.